call the meeting to order. This is the RTM Public Health and Safety Special Meeting for April 24th, 2024. We have a quorum, so we're all set. I'd like to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Any comments or typos, anything? No? Perfect, Jackie.
I was not here.
So all in favor of approving?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you. The next topic, I thought we'd continue to hear some updates from committee members regarding interviews with various town officials and outdoor workers. Yeah, hi, yeah, I can start just, I got a nice report from Beth Pope. She couldn't be here tonight. A family member passed away down in Florida, so she's down there. But it was kind of right after our last meeting, but she did get together with the director of operations for the public schools, and it's really quite interesting. The contractor that they use for garbage pickup, they have a new one. I believe it's called Oak Shadows, possibly Oak Ridge, I think. But anyway, the contract says that they're to come every day to all the schools no earlier than 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So they come, and that's been going on since July. So they come at 9 o'clock or a little bit later in the morning, pick up everything and then leave. So that's after the kids are in school, they're not with the buses, and they're also not coming really early. Mm-hmm. So it really isn't an issue anymore with anybody who's been concerned about noise, at 4 in the morning or whatever. There was a previous carting service they used, and they actually had the same criteria in their contracting. They kept breaking it, so they renegotiated with another contractor. So I thought that was very positive news, and because that's been the source of complaints that come in.
Do you know if that was a point of the replacement contract? Was part of the reason that they switched? Was
yes,
that they were,
yes,
the timing.
Yes, and so there can always be special situations of why they might have to come early on a given time, but for the most part, that's what they do. And they do pick up on Saturday mornings, but there's no Sunday pickup. And I think it's kind of logical, because that's the hours or the days that the dump. I call it the dump, but
yeah.
that's what they're open Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
So, and the other piece that I had was that I was talking to a landscaper that I know pretty well, and he's very adamant with his own business and with most other businesses. They just don't start that early, and they don't work that late. They really don't want to pay the guys overtime. So it really doesn't seem to be an issue that they're landscapers, for example, and even contractors starting really early or working late. Mm-hmm. And I forget who it was, but somebody spoke with David Genovese about his project.
Yeah, I did.
So same kind of thing. Right. There's always a special thing that comes up, and somebody has to work early or has to do something late. But for the most part, they're pretty respectful.
I also, I had that exchange with David, and I sent that to you and Lois, right. And it just broadly defined what his, I can't remember now, it was so long ago, but, they were reasonable hours and only on occasion a Saturday, and just generally, and then specifically for Corbin, he's highly motivated because his tenants are there, and so he's trying to keep everybody happy, so
sure. He's
sensitive to that issue. The other thing that I had been asked about was the dog issue, mm-hmm. The barking dog issue. So I spoke with Rick Babella, who probably everybody knows, but I never spoke with him before. Anyway, he's the administrator for the chief of police, and he was a cop in this town for 30 years.
Sergeant.
And I asked him, about noise, and specifically about noise from dogs. And he said it's called a nuisance dog when there are repeat. Mm-hmm. Did Lois already discuss this? I don't know.
No, I don't believe so. Go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, he went down through the records and had a clerk pull anything having to do with canine. And there was only one report in the past year, and it had to do with a dog that was barking all night. And so they sent a cop out, and he got there at 3:30 in the morning, and the dog was in fact outside barking, and it was winter. So he decided to take the dog back to the police station. They tried to, the lights were out, they tried to rouse the owner, but couldn't. But then the owner woke up, and early in the morning,
Must have been the silence that woke him up.
But he had let the dog out to do its business, and then he fell back asleep, that sort of thing. So they dealt with it. And he said, for the most part, that's pretty much what they do, is they just use their discretion, and if there's a repeat offender, they rely on the state ordinance, which allows them to execute a $75 fine. Otherwise, it's, a band, a party that goes late. Apparently, they were cutting down trees at 6:30 in the morning at Weburn, and people took exception to that. They make a visit, and people
Right.
are like, gee, sorry, So he didn't characterize it as a big, overwhelming problem.
Well, you mentioned the state ordinance, and at our last meeting, there was a little bit of discrepancy about looking up the statute numbers that were cited by the police commissioner, what they use. And what it really is those are all still very accurate. They're just not in the state statutes. They've all been carved out, and they're under the environmental protection. So that's where they are.
They're 30. It's 38-51, and if you just Google it, it comes right up.
But it's not under the. I guess if you look under the state statutes and try to find it, it's all been removed and moved.
Oh.
I guess is what I'm saying. If that's proper way of saying.
I just Googled it for Darien, and it came right up, and it was.
So I had raised this question at the last meeting. I honestly and truly believe that part of the issue is that it's hard to cite the source, because if you do Google it, we're finding past things. Like I just right now Googled statute 3851.
Yeah.
That actually is the Fraternal Benefit Society and foreign or alien companies to reimburse state for cost of examination.
Well, this is what I got when I did it, so I don't know.
So I do feel like part of the issue is that whether things were moved online or whatever, no one can point to what the rule is. And so we all keep saying, it's this, oh no, it's this. And so that's why it's hard to...
Well, Wayne is weighing in on this. He hasn't gotten back to me yet definitively, but he seems to be leaning that's, as you say, it's there. It's just under a different heading of state government. There's the Environmental Protection, I don't know if it's EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, but that's where all of those have gone. They still have the same numbers and everything.
So I did actually find Section 3851 noise. Noise levels that exceed the standards established by the state under regulations set forth shall be prohibited in the town. But there's nothing about hours. There's nothing about...
Well,
So it's discretionary.
But that's where I handed it out before, that Lois that you got from Brent, all the things that there are hours from 7 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. Contractors are exempt from noise regulations as far as making noise. I mean, basically, if they run within the hours, if they want to run a power saw, something that you can think of that makes a lot of noise, they're exempt from it.
But let's say I want to be a good neighbor and I'm hiring a new landscaping crew, and I want to tell them when they can come. So I sit down on my computer and I Google noise ordinance. And I don't find it. And I find, references, older references before 2022.
That's probably something that TGS&A, I can work with them to tighten that up.
But also, I think if you're a neighbor and you care enough, you'll know common sense, what time you think you would want your neighbor to start.
Right.
So I don't think they would hit the wall at Google and be like, huh,
But
4
I
a.m.
guess I don't, I think it's hard to,
Pick a time.
Right.
it's hard to, I'm at work, sure, I mean, I don't actually have a landscaping crew, we take care of our stuff ourselves, but, I just think it's part of the issue is, when we were talking about this idea of being a good neighbor, it's really nice if you can point to, here's what the law is, and right now, it's very hard to do that.
But since it's very hard, can't you inform your neighbor in advance to let her or him knows that you're going to have your landscaper over, so?
Sure, but then
Yeah.
that's part of if we're socializing this idea of how to be a good neighbor, do we suggest that? Do we suggest?
Well, I think these are all things we could work on. We talked before about actually having a plan put in place later this year, working with the police commission to come up with something. That's where I think we can work that out. But I think what Ally is saying is kind of, I agree with you. I mean, in the sense that, these guys know, they come, if they come at 6 in the morning and fire up I don't know,
Leaf blower.
a leaf blower, a giant walk-behind lawnmower, that's
Right.
it's not courteous.
But what we're finding is that that's just not happening. So why
Yeah.
don't we come up with a list, now that we've done all of this research and talked to all these different people, let's come up with a list of the problems that are happening. Because landscapers, we're not getting in place that they're doing at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
The school issue is resolved. So what problem are we trying to solve? Let's make a list and focus on that. And then we can figure out what guidance we need to
Yeah.
write.
I don't think there seems to be a problem.
I
It
agree.
doesn't seem, thank you.
I
That's
agree.
where I was getting.
I think we just publish
I think we've done
the
our
regs,
research.
Right.
Just so the regs are the regs, be a good neighbor, and this is what we found.
And we can move on.
Yeah,
Put it in the
I-
paper and.
I suggest too that we, come up with a kind of a general statement on all of this.
Yeah.
I'd like to present it, have our group present it to the selectmen, so, because they're the ones that brought it to us. Certainly let the Rules Committee know where we are with it and just go from there.
Well-
And it doesn't mean that we're closing the book on this, it's just that
No,
this is what we are
I
right
think a
now.
nice article in the newspaper would be
Yeah.
good, the research
What
that's been
newspaper?
done.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I agree, and I just went to the town website and put the word noise in a search box, and nothing came up in terms of something useful. It was RTM this and such
Yeah.
that. So I think that, if we put in one simple page what the regulations are, what the fines are, what, be the good neighbor type advice, and made
Yeah.
sure it was on the town website, that would solve that question of,
Right.
how do I do the right thing? I want to do the right thing, but there's nothing here to guide me as to what's right.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think Brent would be very amicable to doing that, helping us, because that's what the police are using.
Well, that just solved a big problem.
What's next?
So,
What about the Darien Neighbor magazine?
Yeah, I know, that's not part of the Darien lifestyle.
No, this is not that?
No, I mean, there's the Patch, there's the Daily Voice, there's
Darien
TV 79, we can do some PSAs. I mean, there is the Darien Times.
Posted on
With
Mom's
West-
Darien.
Yeah, Mom's Darien, next
Social
door,
media.
I mean, there's all kinds of places we can get the word out there.
Instagram,
Marley Hayes' newsletter that comes out as well too. But I think what we need is one centralized document on the website that we can link to and say, this is, definitive, blessed by police department,
But
when,
maybe it's not a law, and maybe it's like, this is where we got to, it's a good neighbor policy, and for a good neighbor policy, we, the Public Health and Safety Committee, are suggesting this with the concurrence of selectmen and other things, and I don't think it's as clearly defined as we would like it to be, as you're saying, it should be written right down in the, because I've looked at all this stuff, and we've gone around it with a lot of people. So maybe we don't say it's a law, maybe we define our good neighbor policy as opposed to defining
Well, there is
the
a
law.
state ordinance,
But the
Yeah.
state ordinance,
but that's the one that the police department uses or refers to. They told us about dogs, $75. But
but different parts have different it's not as clean cut as we would like it to be. It's not saying this is what noise is, this is what the hours are,
I agree.
this is what's that. And then what I'm saying is, we can spend a lot of time trying to define it or write a law or whatever, but maybe we define a good neighbor policy. And then we can create it what we think it should be.
Yeah, because when I talked to Jeremy, he said that there's just he calls it an understanding.
Yeah.
That among contractors, that, that they don't start before 7 o'clock and they don't work all night.
It's also bad PR,
Yeah.
bad publicity.
Yeah, have your name on your truck out there. Who's out there at
Mom's
3
Dairy
a.m.?
Inn.
I mean, could we go so far as to say in that statement, like, if you're having a problem, this is what you should do? That, if it's a barking dog, call the police. If it's and you think it warrants a intervention, the person that you call is the police.
So along those lines, because I had a conversation with Brent about the police, and somebody had said they had done something and it didn't go anywhere. Well, they didn't follow a protocol, and he said if somebody goes to the police with a complaint and then nothing happens, it has a stepwise and it eventually ends up at the police commission. But if people's perception is, well, I told the guy when I saw him on the street,
Right.
and why didn't he do anything? I mean, they might do it, I don't know, I'm using that as an example.
Right.
But the idea that this would be the process and people will follow up, because that is that's approach the way the town works.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
pretty good at that.
Yes, I think that was Carrie's point at the last meeting, that she thought that she had filed a complaint, but maybe she didn't, so.
I didn't see that complaint.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
looking through the stuff, so.
What
I'm
happens if
gonna
you
make-
use the Q alert system and you put in a noise complaint? Where does it go? The Q alert
Interesting.
system on the website?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone's
That's
ever
what
done it.
Public Works uses and
Yeah.
Like
as
you
a pot.
report
Potholes and then-
Yeah,
But I
right.
thought it was just for public works, is it can be.
No,
used
it's for other stuff too.
Really?
Down, yeah.
That's good to know.
Didn't know that.
And that may be
Yeah.
added into the,
Yeah.
but except that, I don't know that the police use it, so that would require some more,
That's a good question. I don't know if they do.
consideration. But the police certainly record all the calls that they get, that go directly into the line, not telling the guy on the street that this is a
Right,
problem.
right, and we don't want people calling 911 over a dog.
No.
No, but I'm hoping most people understand that there's an alternate number for the
Right,
police
right.
other than 911.
And that's something that we could have on this sheet.
But what was nice, Lois, is what you handed us at the last meeting was just everything, that's meat to it, rather than just a call that came into the clerk's office or something like that. I mean, that was really documented.
So, I think, but I would love to see it embraced as a good neighbor policy as opposed to these little laws of Darien. Because I think those could get too rigid
I
and too
agree.
difficult and hard to enforce, conclude, get everybody in agreement, and leaves open for.
And a good neighbor policy is a positive. You're not restricting somebody and saying, you can't do this, you can't do this. You're just saying, hey, look, don't be a jerk. That's our,
Right.
that's the slogan on another video. Don't be a jerk.
Don't do evil.
Yeah. And if it's a real problem, call Jim Cameron.
Hello, Darien Police Department. Got another call complaining.
Okay, well,
That's good.
why don't we move on and discuss budget items. I handed out just kind of a template I've used before of the various departments, and on the back is our capital items. But I just started with the police budget. There's an overall increase of 5.9%, and there's been increased staffing. They now have one additional sworn police officer, and they finally come to full realization for civilian dispatchers. And that's really, I think, we'll benefit from that going forward, because the actual policemen are out doing what they're supposed to be doing. Anyway, Lois.
The dispatches have been in the budget, they just haven't had the staffing for it. So that's not an incremental cost really from a budgeting standpoint, is it?
Well, I think from what I read, it was just like one had been added the last few years, one additional one.
I think it's also a recruitment problem.
I know it
Right.
is, that's what I'm trying to separate is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they'll spend all the money, but I think, are they budgeting an incremental dispatcher or this year, or is
I
that?
believe so. And that's where I grabbed some of this information that,
Okay.
for the increase.
Does this budget include that, I read about the license plate readers, or is that
Maybe
I don't think
next year.
they've implemented that yet. They're talking about it, but I think that's gonna come from different funds.
Okay.
But the fire budget has an increase of approximately 9%. They need to be in compliance with Connecticut Public Act number 22-139. And a lot of this is really, really good stuff. I mean, they need to have extra gear because they need to have stuff cleaned. Just the stuff is just nasty. You know, you're wearing it, go into a burning building, and then you come out, it's full of stuff. So they're working on that. They do oversee hoarding and blight issues, and they're expected to stabilize. They've kind of been, the numbers look like they were coming up, and now they're kind of stabilizing.
So that's the blight control officer?
I believe so. You
Is that
probably know
a, is that
more
a
about that.
full-time job now? Or
He's
is
a
it still
half-time,
part-time?
it's a half-time job. He does fire inspection half the time, Mr. Ferentz, I believe his name is, and then blight the other half of the time. But I'm not quite sure where they get that hoarding and blight issues are expected to stabilize. Because if you watch the blight review board, I mean, they got a full plate with cases going back 5 years.
Could be. I just saw the incidents, incidents scheduled last year and incidents they expect for this year, and it was roughly the same number. So those were kind of my words.
How do you expect blight and hoarding?
Have they rolled out the commercial blight yet? Did that ever pass?
Yes, they passed, and I don't believe there've been any complaints, none that, this is just based on watching TV 79.
Yeah.
No commercial complaints have risen to the standard of blight, so they haven't had to pursue anything.
Okay.
I think they just wanted it, they talked about it having an extra quiver, you know.
Yeah, and the poster child of what was thought of as commercial blight is well under construction now.
Yeah.
And we don't need to name names further, we all know where that is. It's still an ongoing issue. You know.
It
Yeah.
is, because there's a building site near where I live, which is pigsty. And, you know.
Residential?
It's residential,
Uh-huh.
and it's a one-off spec house that, you know, everything's all over the place. It's just,
Watch the blight review board, the pictures just tell the story. And the blight control officer goes out and he takes pictures of the blighted properties.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to go on the property, but he can shoot from the neighbors with their permission in the backyard, et cetera, et cetera. And putting on my 79 hat for a second, I worked very hard with the blight review board to get permission to use those, because they were showing them on paper to each other at the blight review board, and I said, put them up on the big screen, let our people know what blight is and what blight isn't. So now that they'll look at a picture and they'll say, I don't see 2 conditions there, take it off the list. Or, there's 37 conditions there, where do we start? You know, but the big problem they're having is collecting on fines, finding somebody to serve a notice to. There are mortgage companies out of state that they may have to hire a sheriff to go and do service on, et cetera. So I hope they're right, that the stabilization occurs, but I'm just curious. You know?
Well, the other piece of that is the hoarding. I mean, the
Yeah.
fire department will go out and along with the police, and it's amazing what I've heard is in one's home, you know, newspapers, you know,
yeah, stacked
like
high.
stacked like in a
Yeah.
room like this and stuff. I mean, it's dangerous. Okay, emergency medical service, or post 53, the budget is up 17,000 or 10%, and it's related to increased expenditures on professional services. And that might be the EMTs that they
The
bring in.
paramedics from
You know,
Stanford.
You know, but it's noteworthy that high school staffing in post 53, it's all volunteer, and much of the operation is self-funded through donations.
Yeah.
Town funding is 172,000. Average response time with lights and sirens is 6.5 minutes. And they anticipate 1,900 projected annual incidents. It's like 4 or 5 a day. It's really something.
Is that going up or down? Do we have any information on that?
It looked like it actually was going down a little bit. Human services, and you know, I listed all the things that fall under that. The overall budget is 6.5% due to increased public health department, senior center, and youth services expenditures. The youth budget seems to be going up almost every year, but it's also in line with its revenue. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's more programs that they offer, and So
Is
they're-
this through the depot or what?
This is the depot, this is like, they do a summer camp, there are things, things like that, you know.
There's a youth commission that runs the summer camps and things like that. Summer camps are booked up. They were booked up within 2 days of starting enrollment. And there's no place else that they can add more sections.
Is this the camp that goes on at the Y?
No.
No, this is the
This
one that
is
the
on the
town
fields?
runs. Out on the soccer fields, at Tokenique, at different other places as well, too.
The middle school one runs out of the depot, and the elementary school one runs out of the different schools.
Okay.
And they go to the beach and they have field trips.
Are they restricted to Darien?
They eventually open for non-residents, but they're full by the time.
Okay, so Darien residents first shot?
Yeah.
And then if there's.
The registration is through the same website that you register for Parks and Rec stuff.
Okay.
It
It's been a
opens
while
in
since I've had a kid in
February.
camp.
Sells out. Like the Y is the same thing. It opens in February or March and it sells out. You have to plan ahead.
Okay.
I can remember with our son, you know, waiting there at 3:30 in the morning, you know, when you had to be in line at the Y to sign up for something.
Was it really that?
Yeah, I'm probably exaggerating, but I mean,
Right.
it was really.
Didn't even think about that you couldn't do it online.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very-
So, and then what's happening at the senior center and the public health department?
Well,
Like, what are those related to?
yeah, the senior center, the senior center, I don't really have those numbers exactly, but, I mean, they're in there, but nothing really stood out but the senior transportation, those numbers seem to balance almost every year. In other words, the revenue that they take in is what they spend.
What
But
is senior transportation?
That's, what's
Like
the?
Darien
The,
at home?
Used to be Gallivant, I guess.
Yeah.
At home in Darien.
At home in Darien.
At home in Darien.
Right.
Sweet.
And the public health department's budget is, $476,000. They actually get a fair amount of revenue from their licenses and permits. And they're really, the next couple of years, they're going to be extremely busy with all the new things coming online. You know, you've got more things going on downtown. You've got the new project across from train station in Roden Heights. You know, that once they open, they have to inspect all of that.
And have they hired a new public health officer?
I was going to ask.
Yeah, but I don't believe so. I don't know where they are with that. He's
retiring.
He retires July 1st.
Right. So that salary is in that number there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So then on the back, I put some capital items that are, well, we've got two things to do. These are just for this budget. You know, the police are looking to replace, they do this almost every year. They've got numbers for vehicle replacement. Then I listed the 3 firehouses. The Darien Fire Department for firehouse exhaust mitigation system. The Roden Fire Department, $160,000, self-contained breathing apparatus, and they are replacing the building generator. And then the Roden Heights Fire Department, same kind of thing. Now, this is where I checked with Jack on this. The Fire Commission has penciled in $1 million for a Tanker 45. They've pulled it, but it's going to come back in. It'll be bonded.
So it's a truck.
It's a truck, yeah.
So it'll probably take you a couple of years to build a truck.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, you know, they all kind of in my mind, but I think we approved that, you know, in the last year. That was the one that we approved. So, and then in the fire marshal's budget, they're replacing software, and I don't quite understand how they do this, but they're converting a pickup truck to a utility truck. So I don't know if they're putting a cap on the back or whatever.
Doesn't $350,000 in vehicle replacements seem really high to you for
It's-
the police?
Well, they do it,
It's
sometimes
also equipment that goes inside the.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Oh, it's
cameras.
all souped up.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
the cameras, the computer that's in
Got
there.
it.
you know.
Right, the radios and all that stuff.
I mean, all the vehicles have cameras now
Okay.
to record in addition to the body cams as well.
So do they rotate them out based on mileage or
No, we had
just
the
amount of
chief a couple of
time?
years back come in, they go by hours.
By
'Cause the
hours?
Because the miles are low, because the cars don't drive a lot, but they run 24/7.
So they're like a mobile office.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
in winter, the car's running to keep it heated, so they're sitting at this post watching.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of mileage on them, it's just a lot of hours put onto the motors.
So do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the,
Sure.
I'm not quite sure how to word this.
Well, you might want to just use the, portions of the July 1st, 2024, the June 30th budget relating to police, fire, other public safety, and human services.
Have been reviewed by this committee, and it grants its approval.
Deems acceptable?
Acceptable, yeah.
So does that mean
Accepted.
you're
That's
going to
correct.
speak at
Yes.
the, okay.
I'll paraphrase kind of this, and Jack does just the real nitty-gritty, but they ask each committee to give a report, and so this will be our report.
Is that going to be the one in May?
Yes.
It's going to be a very long meeting.
Seriously.
Well, and that's kind of want to do our thing tonight, so, if anything comes up between now and then, we can have another meeting, but basically I thought we could get it done tonight.
What are you expecting? Why longer than usual?
Well, let's first do the
I
motion.
need a
Oh,
second,
okay,
I need a
okay.
second for my motion.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
It was announced at the Operations Planning Committee meeting by Mr. Morton that there would be a vote on Pledge of Allegiance at RTM.
It's in June. It's in June.
Oh, that's in June.
Yeah, that's in
Thank
June.
you.
Well, it hasn't been scheduled, but when it was last discussed,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it in the rules meeting, but when it was last discussed, it was suggested that it not be in May and then it be in June.
Good.
And there was no objection to that thing, but it will be further discussed at the rules meeting next week.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Yeah,
You
that's,
saved me about an hour of,
well, it
discussion.
probably wouldn't do well for supporting any of the discussion if after a long meeting, you're going to have something that may or may not be controversial and not bring out the best in everyone, so.
that's right, that's right.
Did I say that?
Very well
correctly?
put.
That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think in general, we don't want to do a lot of other business on that night.
Yeah.
Just like we don't like to do business the night of the state of the
Right,
town.
right.
So it's going to be the school budget and the town budget on the same night?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do every year.
And my understanding from talking to Jack is that that FMB is going to report more on the numbers, and he's expecting the committees to give the overview and the meat of why the stuff is needed and things like that, to try and, it's not an FMB report, and FMB is talking about the numbers, and the different committees really talk about how it affects the town and what the point is and things like that.
Good.
So he's been moving in that direction over the years, and he's continuing to do this. So he's trying to shorten the F&B part and let Mac talk about our stuff, which is what you've written, so
Good.
that's great.
Okay, well, thanks. The last thing on the same thing is the 5-year capital improvement plan. I sent out that piece from Jack. It's like 15, 18 pages long.
Yeah.
I don't think we really need to go through it, but if you just kind of looked at it a little bit, it talks about, going out 6 years. And what Jack said is we should vote to materially concur with the numbers. All we're trying to do is satisfy a state requirement that they want something that's kind of gone out there with placeholders. So that's really what that is. And he's asking each committee like ours to just kind of do that, approve it. He'll talk about it in much detail at the.
Approve it or just say it's reasonable?
It's reasonable. Yeah, I mean, we're not stamping and saying we like every little thing, we're just saying it's reasonable. Yeah.
Is there anything particular on there that is in our swimming lane?
Well, sure, there's vehicles for, there's fire trucks in there.
Right.
There's things that they ask every department to put things, what they think, because it actually makes sense. I mean, we've said it before, we don't want to be coming to a meeting and, oh, another fire truck? Why didn't we know about this? Well, then they can kind of say, well, we have this five-year, 6-year plan.
Yeah, there's the big bump in 26, 27 for the fire.
Mhm.
Do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would move that we materially concur with the projections of the 5-year capital plan as outlined.
Second.
All in favor?
I'll second. Did somebody second?
There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now,
And I just thought of
Yeah.
one thing, just the school budget reminded me. There is a motion to have smaller school buses parked in town. Is that going to be a noise issue?
How many buses?
They're not, they're short buses and SUVs. My
where would they
understanding
park them?
is- Pardon?
Where would they be parked?
Last I heard was Tokenique. I don't know if
Oh,
that's.
in the school?
Not directly inside the school,
I
but
think
No,
that's
in
all,
the-
that's all going to be talked about, but I guess that could be an issue, wherever they're going to be. Is it going to be noisy, is it going to be
I
pollution?
guess it depends if they back up, right, because that's where the noise is. It's
Right.
only if they back up. So if they
Yeah.
all pull in straight and
So
they
this
pull out,
is,
it's
this was
okay.
part of the budget for, having a special appropriation, so we're gonna buy the vehicles and own the vehicles
That's
instead
right.
of
it was the
renting
half
them
day,
from
right.
Yeah.
first student.
It came up at the Board of Selectmen meeting the other night.
But I
or
thought
the
there was
other
like
board.
2 buses. I didn't think it was that
No,
many.
No, no, it's a bunch of like
Really?
Suburbans and short
And
buses.
there was some discussion
Well-
about parking it in some commercial space.
Right,
Well,
you're right.
the
behind
white
houses,
SUVs
or
are
that.
at the Board of Ed.
They are, but there were complaints about that when they parked them there.
Really?
But what are you doing,
The
starting
SUVs
up
are-
a vehicle and moving it out? I mean, it doesn't sound like, I don't know, maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first
I-
part
I-
of you.
I would think that what you're doing is starting a vehicle and pulling it out of the parking lot.
It's
I
the backing
don't-
up, it's
If it's
the
a-
noise of the
Not,
back
not in
bus.
a Suburban.
Yeah.
Suburban doesn't beep.
I don't
Right.
know, not- maybe if it's a
It's
school.
got kids on board,
It's
it
got
might have
kids,
to.
it may
But
have
it
to.
it wouldn't be in a parking area if it has kids
Well,
on
I
board.
don't know
Well-
where they come from now. I know I've seen them. You know, they're white, they're marked Darien Public Schools.
There's
and they-
6 of them, and they're
Right
parked
now, they're
right,
parked at
They
the
go
Board
to
of Ed.
Norwalk.
right at the
they-
Board of
They
Ed.
go
You
to
can
other
see them.
schools,
Yeah.
transporting students.
Yeah.
I saw one this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm used to seeing a beat up old minivan with carrying school children on top.
Yeah.
And this was like a brand spanking new SUV.
They
I saw
bought
one
6
this
of them
Okay.
last year, maybe.
It's like, that's a nice ride for a kid to go to school in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's for special ed kids. Be taken out of the district, actually.
Yeah.
Are they fitting them any special way or?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's all
Okay.
speculation. We'll get more information.
Leather
on it.
stereo.
But I'm sure it'll come to
No, I
us,
meant
and,
like
you know,
a Ram.
we will be able to weigh in on it.
But I think
Probably.
they
Some
pulled
of
it
them,
from
sure,
the
yeah.
last RTM meeting, we were gonna vote on it, and they pulled it because
Right.
because the Board of Finance hadn't voted on it.
Right.
So is this gonna come to us at that same, that May meeting?
Well, I don't know if you guys will, the rules will probably weigh on
There's
it.
some discussion, and I don't know where it stands, on whether it's going to be in the budget or in the capital, and whether it's going to be separate or part of the budget process. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember the
That's
latest
fine,
on
totally
it.
fine.
Yeah.
And if we get to, I think it's supposed to be a separate resolution and not part of the budget. And there was a whole set of issues on timing and when it had to be done and all this other stuff to get pricing and whether we get it in time because of negotiating the bus contract. I'm sorry, I don't remember
Well,
where
it's
it all
all part of the
stood.
strategy of reducing the school budget.
Right.
So,
I don't remember where, I don't know where it is right now, and
Okay.
it's been through a lot
My
of
best
stuff.
guess is the Education Committee will be all over it.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about Great Island. Jim, you made some good points about the, concerns of now that they're not widening the road in the near future, that more and more people are going to be walking from
Uh-huh.
I must have missed that, so we're not widening the road?
there were,
No
Well,
bid.
it's a separate issue. There were no bids for widening the road that you access once you go through the gates and go down to Great Island. There were no bids received, and they're looking at why that was the case. But I wrote a letter to the Police Commission and the First Selectman and Monica as chair of Great Island Advisory Committee, expressing my concern about pedestrians walking from Pear Tree up to walk into Great Island. That they're walking, somebody said it looked like the Wizard of Oz. It was like 3 abreast on both sides of the road, and that road is very narrow.
yeah.
So I said, have you thought about making it one way? Are you gonna do something with signage, et cetera? You could make it one way and put a big kind of pedestrian bike area on one lane as well too.
It's a great idea.
Great Island Advisory Committee raised the issue, decided they're not gonna do much this year aside from maybe put some signage up, ask people to walk in the direction of the traffic. They're not gonna try to make it one way. You are gonna be required to have a beach sticker to be able to park at Pear Tree and walk in as a pedestrian. Their hope is that the kind of novelty of Great Island may have worn off, so there won't be huge throngs of people as there were the first nice sunny weekends.
Wait, that's why we bought the property.
Well, but now they know what it looks like, they
Yeah.
can be a little more selective as to where they want to go or what they're going to see, et cetera.
Well, they still don't have bathroom facilities and.
No
amenities.
bathroom facilities, they're not going to put a porta potty in. There were a lot of ideas raised at the Great Island Advisory Committee meeting, and Monica basically said, our number one job is to hire the consultant, and let's let the consultant do their job and decide what we do next. Well, how about a porta potty? No, we're going to get the consultant. How about a dog? No, you can't bring a dog in, let the consultant look
How
at
about
that.
bike racks?
About bike racks? No, let the consultant work on it.
Why don't people walk on Long Neck Point Road, which is a much safer,
Well, because you gotta
straightaway
walk
road?
up this mountain, and then you gotta walk down to get there. But I've noticed that they have placed new fencing and actually a security guard, because there's some fenced-in entrances there that take you to the Ziegler property,
Right.
near the barn. Because people were just like, okay, I guess I can go in, I own this island now. No, that's still private
Yeah.
property. So I think the shortest distance, and it's still almost a mile, is to walk from Pear Tree over to the main entrance.
What about
So-
the post road on the side and then walk on the sidewalk?
The post
Yeah, the
road.
No
Henley
parking.
School.
Yeah.
People park at Henley. and
People
they
park
walk
at Henley and they walk down, yeah.
That's it's a mile that way.
There's
too.
also a road that's the first road, once you're heading north, you go over Rings End Bridge. I think the first road on the right
Harbor.
Harbor.
is not, there's no parking, there are no parking
There
signs.
will be soon.
Right.
So it kind of fills up.
Well, and people also park behind St. John's and walk.
Well, yeah,
down
that's
that.
still a long,
That's
that's a
another-
long,
it's a
that's a
mile,
long mark.
Basically.
You
a little
gotta
over a mile.
walk, and this is definitely
It
for
is.
walkers, and.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
there are some bike racks down, not within Great Island, but there's bike
Across the
racks
street.
across the street, so.
Oh, I thought the last time I
There used to be a couple of little kind of informal parking spaces there.
Yeah.
They've now put huge boulders.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, there are
Oh,
boulders
they won't
there,
let
so
you
you can't
park
park there.
Oh.
Well, that's
the
where
bike
they
rack
should
is
put
there.
some bike racks.
The bike
There
rack
are,
is
there
there.
are
some.
bike racks
There
there.
are some there.
Yeah,
That's
you
great.
know. Talk to the consultant. That was the answer. We're not.
Is the consultant hired yet?
No.
They're down to a short list of 3. They have one that they seem to think they like, and they're hoping to make a decision. This is all on TV, everybody. You gotta tune in and watch these things. Very exciting. The last Great Island Advisory Committee meeting was very interesting. That's all I can say.
I'm gonna tune in.
Must see
Yeah.
TV.
I'll tell you what to look for in particular. But they are aware of the issue, and I think having, raised the issue, if anything, God forbid happens to, some kid getting hit by a car, people just have to slow down there. I spoke to a guy who lives very close, he lives right across the street from Pear Tree, and I said, how would you feel about having a one-way road? One way down to the beach and then, up the hill and back again. He said,
Especially that
it's fine by me, it's okay, because it's the same distance one way or the other, whichever way I go.
Yeah.
So I said, well, now's your turn to put your hand up and talk to the, the police and the Great Island people and say, yeah, I'm a local and I'm all in favor of that. Because, you do see people walking on both sides of the road and 2 cars trying to pass, especially on that blind curve.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous. But they have been warned.
Talk about that, but something separate from that is that we were able to get the crosswalks on the post road, because people are crossing down the post road to go to the Y, but in the middle of the post road with baby carriages, bicycles, and there's their crosswalk now that's being right across from Seagate, And then another one at Hampton, so
With
that.
no,
they're-
it would be a light?
Well, I did ask them that there's going to have to be some kind of, signage or light or something
Or as you get run
to
over.
notify the drivers.
So I
that-
think right by exit 10 or 11, when I was coming home from work, I saw that there are two now.
Yeah, they're in the process
temporary
of doing
ones.
them now.
So
Yeah.
they did them, there's a loose sign that was actually in the lane, and I had to veer this way, and I almost hit somebody.
Yeah.
Because the sign that they put in the middle isn't staying,
Silly.
and somebody
Yeah.
could hit
Yeah.
it, and it actually is a hazard, so.
Yeah, and I think they're in the process of.
If you know who to contact,
Yeah,
I
like, let's
almost,
contact-
day one of
yeah.
this new
Call the police.
crosswalk
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
caused a
well,
pileup.
Okay, and that was at which one, at Seagate?
They
or
were
Hampton?
right next to each other.
Okay.
I think it was the first one.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so they're in the process of still doing that.
It was like
but
a third of the way
It's taking
through
some
the lane.
advocacy in terms of, protection of people.
Yeah.
But I have another issue.
But it's a wide sign.
Yeah, okay. I'll follow up on that, yeah, with the, okay.
Well, these are, we're morphing into announcements.
So I have
Remember
another issue
special
that's
meeting.
just really
Right.
not a specific Darien issue, but there's overspill. People have come to me within the last couple days about the proposed dispensary at the boatyard right there in Stamford, right on the Darien border, and so I don't know like how to respond.
Well, I think right now, that's not on our agenda to talk about,
No.
so I think we should
Can't-
just table it.
Where do
but-
we go for
but-
certain things? Like, how do we?
Well, I think the article I read tonight about it was they had a meeting, was it yesterday?
At Giovanni's last night.
Right, and
There's
our
another
first,
one.
our first selectman attended and
Okay,
spoke.
okay.
But I would direct people to read that article.
Yeah, well, they showed me that on May 6th, there's going to be another public hearing on Zoom
That's on Stanford.
in Stamford,
Yeah.
yeah. So just tell them to go read the article?
Well, when I say read their, but it will give them more information about it. I mean, I don't know what really we can do.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's
That's
not
what
our
I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I don't know, and it's just on the border kind of thing, or what we can do or not do.
That's the topic for a whole other discussion. I'm sure I would love to participate in as well, too. But this being a special meeting, we can only
a
have,
special.
discuss
Right.
what's on the agenda.
Right,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
How do we get another meeting where something like that is on the agenda? How do
You
Well,
talk
if
to
we
the
had a-
chairman and ask him to call a meeting.
Oh, okay.
We have a regular meeting, like if this was on a Monday night before
Yeah.
an RTM meeting, we could talk about it.
Oh,
because-
okay,
So,
Yeah.
okay. Special meeting, nothing else. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Or you talk to them and get them.
Well, I think we should talk about the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
the
We'll put it on the
road,
agenda.
Pear Tree Point Road at the next meeting. We should put that on our agenda, because we can make a suggestion to change the direction of the road.
Because when you leave the parking lot in the
Right, 'cause
summer,
that's-
you
that's-
have to make a right-hand turn.
There's a sign there that says no left turns. And they're gonna
Correct.
put a much bigger sign in bright, bold lettering that says that way. Now, enforcement, are they gonna rely on the guy in the booth that's looking for beach stickers? I don't
And
know.
even if you did, he has no authority, so.
Yeah, he's not gonna rush out there with a, ticket book and write something down.
I mean, you almost need a Jersey barrier going down the line now in the middle and then have it blocked off so if you do turn left, you can't turn
Well,
left.
I think we should put it on the agenda, and I think if we're all in agreement, we should bring it up and.
It's a
and-
We
very.
can talk about it again, yeah.
I mean, I think it's
It's a
reasonable.
very what? Don't
No,
pull back.
I just think that not everybody in that part of town is going to want to make a change
Well,
like that.
that's,
No, I'm just, I
that's
mean,
just the way the world rolls. If it's for safety.
They would have to be,
it's
there would
safety.
have to be public hearings, there would be a whole
Yeah.
process
and
involved.
we did all that with Pear Tree Point Beach. And then everything changed at the end.
But there wasn't a one-way consideration.
No, it wasn't that, but,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Well, these are the same people who wanted it to remain open land instead of a development, so, right?
Well, that's easy.
Yeah.
All they had to do is buy it.
Well, I think we've concluded our business. I suggest.
No other announcements, Mr. Chairman?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Just that I don't believe we need to have another meeting before the budget meeting of the full RTM, but we have that Monday scheduled if something comes up. But, I'd be in line to cancel it, but I won't do that right now.
Wait, you
But-
mean the 29th?
No, was it May?
13th.
May 13th?
May 13th. In other words, right now, I don't think we need to meet, but if something comes up, we certainly have it scheduled. And that's a
Is that
scheduled
at
meeting.
8 o'clock is the RTM meeting? Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Were they polling about having it
Yes.
slightly earlier?
Yes,
Okay,
they
so
were.
what-
7:30.
If you end the meeting, I'm happy to talk about that,
Right.
because that's not having anything to do with us.
Right,
It's
it was.
under.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
We could do it under an announcement.
Announcement.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So what happened
We
is
haven't
apparently.
adjourned the meeting
It was
yet.
raised to the Rules Committee that we should consider changing the time to 7:30. So at the
Right.
Rules Committee meeting, we talked about it and thought we should get input from the RTM, not meant to be a decision-making, because we're not trying to do a majority vote. I hope everybody's done the survey. If not, please do it. It takes about 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's
Right.
really
It's
quick.
really quick if we have it by Friday. Well, our goal is to have it done on Friday so that we can look at it over the weekend and report back to the Rules Committee. I mean, the idea is, how do people feel about it? Do people care one way or the other? And and then the bottom line was, are we going to lose anybody if we move it to 7:30? Because some people may commute from New York or things like that. And we just want to put this all on the table and have some information for the Rules Committee to discuss. So that was the thing behind it.
Yeah.
Well, so we go way back, right? It used to be 8:15.
8:30.
8:30.
And it was my neighbor, when he got on, got it moved to 8 o'clock. So I remember going way back, so this is
Yeah. Based
interesting.
on
We
train
didn't vote,
schedule.
we just did it.
There was a train that came in, so that's
Oh,
why
I
it was
see.
held late.
Well, one thing, I wish there'd been a place to actually put in comments, because there was no
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But the other thing is that.
If anyone has any, I guess we could send
Right.
out, Christie could send out an email saying if anyone has any comments that wasn't included in the form, please just send them in.
Because I didn't really have an answer for myself. My thing is I'd like to keep it at 8 o'clock, because I like having our meetings scheduled for that night at 7, because it's the same night anyway. I think it's just easier
Matt-
tonight we had to schedule another night for this.
What I was thinking of doing, because somebody else had called me and said, Lois, I said, okay. But sending an email to the chairs of each of the committee chairs, to see if they had any additional concerns.
Okay.
Because I think,
Then I could,
because that's beyond what do I think, but how would it affect my committee or something like that. And obviously, those that are on the Rules Committee are going to voice their opinions, but those that aren't should have a say. So
I don't
I'll
think
get
we
that
could
out.
start a public health and safety meeting before 7 o'clock, and I don't think a half an hour is enough time, if we're going to continue that. Otherwise, we just have to plan another night of the week, and then we've got another night you've got to,
Yeah.
be available for a meeting.
Yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of trying to squeeze everything into
Well-
1 hour if it's a big
Yeah.
issue as well.
No,
too.
but that's why we have special meetings, but my point
Right.
is that at least we have that scheduled. So, I would say, the last few years, it's been about half and half. We have a regular meeting, or we have a special one, and then we cancel the regular one.
Actually, from sitting on the Rules Committee and the discussion on it, it could come to be a really difficult thing, because the majority may want it, but a few, the minority might not, but those are valid reasons, and then what do you do? So I'm waiting to see how it all comes out and what people are going to say. Because it's not a majority rules kind of decision.
It just seems like our meetings don't last as long as they used to.
I think people getting really tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but it seems like I remember meetings went to like 11 o'clock and stuff,
right.
and it doesn't seem that way anymore.
Well,
Everything
I
is
think Channel
earlier now.
79 has
Right.
helped that, because people are able to see the issues and be
That's right.
clear when they get to the meetings.
They're fully informed when they walk into the room and they know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lois, that was a good update.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.